Hi,
Folks,
Eric.
today I am joined by Jon Hamm, an Emmy-winning actor that you know from projects such as Mad Men, The Town, Baby Driver, and his latest film, Top Gun Maverick, which hits theaters on May 27th. Now, John is a famed St. Louis Cardinals fan. I am a New York Mets fan, so I'll make sure to try to avoid throwing any pitches up and in. Uh, how are you today, sir? And
Very well.
thank you
Congratulations. Your
for
Mets
joining.
are off to a very hot start.
They
Some fun
are,
to
but they're
watch.
currently in the process of blowing a lead to the Braves. So
Oh.
let's see how I'm feeling by the time we're done chatting. So let me just start by saying congrats on the film. I had an absolute blast with it, and I want to start with the original Top Gun. What were you up to in 1986, and what would 1986 John Hamm have said if you told him that he'll be starring in the next Top Gun film?
I was up to about 15 years old, and that movie was a very big experience for not only myself but my entire friend group. And I remember going to see it in the cinema in St. Louis, and as soon as the movie ended, I realized I wanted to see it again. It was that kind of a thing. And of course, back in those days, seeing a movie again didn't just mean you hit the little circle button and go back and start it over. You had to go outside and buy another ticket and stand in line. That's if you could get a ticket, if it wasn't sold out. And it was a whole process. So I remember probably seeing it in theaters 3, 4, 5 times easily, because that movie to me and my friends represented what it was to be cool. And it was the sunglasses, it was the look, it was the leather jacket, the F-14 Tomcats, the aircraft carriers, everything about it was cool. The music, the way it looked. So that was a big part of my life. Had I been told after walking out of one of those screenings, if some weirdo would have walked up to me and said, "Don't worry about it, kid, you'll be in the sequel 36 years later," my response would have probably been to call the police. But you shouldn't be whispering in 15-year-old kids' ears if you don't know them. But yeah, I don't know. I'm thrilled to have had the opportunity, and I'm very thrilled for people to see the film.
Let me just say to your point about that being cool, good fitting pair of blue jeans, white tee, and a leather jacket will never go out of style. It
No,
looks
it
just as
won't.
cool now as it did then.
Yep.
I was pleasantly surprised by how similar the tone was to the original film. Why do you think it was important for this movie to stay true to the Top Gun aura while also updating the story for modern fans?
I think the biggest part of why the movie works on so many levels is because what you say is true. The tonally it maintains the same notes, but thematically it actually has shifted over the course, because what happened in the ensuing 30 plus years was that Maverick got older and Iceman got older. And a lot of the people that we remember from the first aren't in their 20s anymore. And so words and concepts like responsibility and duty and service and loyalty and friendship and loss and grief, all of these things mean very different things when you're in your 50s than they do when you're in your 20s. And I think part of the fun for the audience, and part of why the audience can relate so much to this whole journey, is because they're invested in watching Maverick, for want of a better word, sort of grow up, and like we all have, and have to deal with, with kind of not being as selfish, and putting other people in harm's way is not the best way to go. And I think that those are lessons that we can all learn, especially in a time where, this idea of taking care of the group and taking care of your community and taking care of each other is seems to be a weirdly out of fashion. So I think it's
Contentious
nice to have,
debate, yeah.
yeah, I think it's actually nice to be reminded that that's actually the number should be the number one rule. Take care of
And
each
I
other.
think that that's what's great about this film is that it still maintains sort of that genuine earnestness without feeling hokey.
True. And it's not preachy. There's nothing,
Yeah.
it's trying to tell its story, and it's wildly entertaining. There are some sequences that if you aren't blown away by, you don't have a pulse.
Yeah. Right.
It is a movie that is meant to be seen in a large format, loud and proud, and it will, buckle up for this one, because it's a good one.
Now, I felt that your character was very much the moral compass of the film. Talk to me about creating a character who's forced to make difficult choices, even though they may not agree with them, but they know that they are the right ones, especially when those choices can cost lives. How did you go about bringing gravitas to that?
A lot of that was meeting a lot of the guys that were in the positions of making decisions and power and authority, and having to make executive decisions that you're right to identify could end up costing lives, could end up costing vast sums of money in destroyed material and what have you. So there are people for whom those decisions are made every day, and it's a tricky one. And those people by nature tend to be very sober, serious, calculating individuals. And that's generally why they have those jobs. So it wasn't that hard. It's baked into the script. The script is a very good script. Chris McQuarrie and others did a wonderful job on putting it all down on paper. But part of that was, as designed, was because that decision-making process has to be then met up with and rub up against Maverick's different decision-making process. And so that's where a lot of the drive, the dramatic drive and tension comes in the second half of the film.
You bring up rubbing up against Maverick, and one of the things I have wrote down here was this pitched to you as, hey, John, can you come in and tell Tom Cruise no a bunch? Because that's basically what I felt like your role was.
I mean, it's a pretty cool job, I will say. I feel like that's a guy that doesn't get told no a lot. But I will say, I wasn't telling Tom Cruise no. I was telling Maverick.
Right.
Very different experience.
So I feel. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I feel like when we talk about Top Gun, we have to talk about the late great Tony Scott. Now, I don't want you to bail by saying Top Gun. So outside of Top Gun, do you have a favorite Tony Scott film, and why do you love that film?
Boy, you're putting me on the spot here for his filmography, but I think he made a movie. Did he make? No, that was Martin Brest. Did he make? Oh my boy, you're killing me.
Sorry, John. We can skip this one. Crimson Tide is always a classic answer.
No, it wasn't Crimson Tide. That was good, but that's not one of my favorites. There's one that I'm thinking of that I cannot pull the title, and I'm gonna look it up on my phone while you call up another thing.
I'll let you bake on it. All right. Now, John, I have to ask you about The Town, because my friends and family and my parents especially, who could basically quote the entire film, would never forgive me if I did not. Why do you think that movie has created such a legacy? Because I don't think I've ever met somebody who says I don't like that film. Go ahead.
True Romance was the answer that I was seeking, and I knew it would come to me eventually, but I had to look it up. Because I was looking it up, I didn't hear a single word of your question. So go ahead and roll that back, and I'll be happy to answer whatever you like.
Great choice there. So I said I have to ask you about The Town because my friends and family, I mean, my parents who are in their 60s can quote every line of this film. And I'm not sure I've ever met somebody who isn't like, oh man, The Town, I love The Town. Why do you think that film has created such a legacy?
Ben did a very, very smart thing when he decided to take on that project. And he's a phenomenal director. I think the proof's in the pudding for that. That was his second feature. I happened to see his first feature at a film festival, and I was blown away. Gone Baby Gone. But when it was presented to me as this is going to happen, and I thought, well, Ben's the perfect guy to do it. Not only is he literally the patron saint of Boston, but he's also perfectly cast in the role. But he also hired tremendous craftspeople to make that movie, from our stunt coordinators to our director of photography to our costumers to our ADs to everybody, to our second unit director. We had the editors. We had the top-notch, top-tier craftspeople working on that film, and it's all right there on screen. He decided to make kind of a throwback 1970s style action thriller, and it's just great. I had so much fun making that movie. Got to know Jeremy Renner really well on that film. We've made a couple things since then, and Rebecca Hall, Ben, obviously, so many folks on that film. Got to work with the late great Pete Postlethwaite. So, you know, it was a real pleasure. It was a real fun experience getting to know Boston. I'd really never spent much time there. I've since made 2 or 3 other films in Boston, and I love it there. The sports teams I can do without. But
you and me both, brother.
I'm sure I'm gonna get dragged for that, but whatever. That's how it goes.
Let me tell you, hearing Pete's name, the first thing that I think of is I'm gonna clip your nuts, just like I clipped your daddy's.
Yeah, he's a scary guy, and when you meet him in person, he's the nicest, gentlest, tiniest little Irish elf. He was pretty intimidating in that film.
You sort of led me into what I was going to ask next. You seem to have an early indication that you were working on something special. Was there a specific moment where you realized like people are going to talk about this film in 10, 20 years from now?
On Top Gun or on the Town?
On Town.
On the Town for sure. You know, part of it is ineffable, right? You can't really describe it. But it has something to do with having a good time making it. If there's some sort of intrinsic joy or enthusiasm that's coming from making it, then that will come out on screen. And then some of it is just lightning in a bottle. I think that we had both of those things. We came out on the right weekend. We had the right kind of mix of release. Warner Brothers did an incredibly good job at marketing the film.
It's also endlessly quotable.
And it was very endlessly quotable. It hit that pure pocket of the movie-going audience that wanted to watch it on more than one occasion. And that's the movie that I get recognized for more than anything else, especially in airport. It's very big for the TSA for some reason.
Because they probably had to go through a course like, here's how we prevent getting robbed like this.
You're probably right.
All right, I've got to wrap soon, so I want to swing over to what I think is probably the most underrated aspect of your career, and that's your work in comedy. Now, I'm a fan of soccer, and in England, they would call this taking the piss out of yourself. You seem to be a huge fan of that, whether it be Bridesmaids or Parks and Rec or 30 Rock or even popping up on Curb. Why do you seem to enjoy that so much? Because I find that you're clearly in on the joke of playing against type.
I think part of it is it's expecting the unexpected, I think, and that there's a lot of comedy that can come from that. I look a certain way, I present a certain way, and I think if then the action or the scene makes a hard left, then it tends to be funny. I think of I did a very small part playing myself on Bill Hader's excellent show Barry.
Amazing.
And it wasn't even really a joke. It was just me being an exaggeratedly dumb version of me. And we got to lean into it so much that Bill could barely keep a straight face when it was on his own coverage. So I was kind of like, you're the star of this movie. You better stop laughing during this. It's really not working. But I was very pleased to be a part of it. I've cultivated friendships with a lot of those people on that side of the aisle from a comedic standpoint, and it's always nice when you get asked to play in those sandboxes.
Well, Jon, whether it be seeing you pop up as the guy who says no in Top Gun or the beautiful moron in Parks and Rec, you're one of those guys whose name I love seeing pop up in any film. Anytime you show up, I am confident that it is going to elevate the movie. I thank you for your work and your time today, sir. Godspeed.
Thank you kindly. Good talking with you.
Thank you, Jon. Cheers.